Hi, thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think you've got your dose of good entertainment. That's why you are not being given a break by the moderator. So I hope you are all fine with that. Any which ways, we'll be having a very interesting discussion. We are speaking on the topic of leveraging AI and data to personalize customer experience. And we have very experienced marketers and business leaders here. Three of them here, and the fourth one is actually on his way. So once he comes in, he will also join. Uh, we have Dr. Devi Jindal, who is an AVP, Growth and Strategy for CK Birla Healthcare. We have Mr. Shashi Shekhar Mukherjee, Head of Digital Marketing at Reckitt. We have Mr. Deepak Oram, the quiz winner. So he is also the Senior Vice President, Growth Marketing and MarTech of HDFC. And we'll be joined by Mr. Ashish Tiwari, CMO of Home Credit India, very shortly. So first of all, thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking out time for this. I think this is a very, very interesting, very topical theme these days. And because you are belonging to different industries, I think there will be a lot of insights which will be coming in for everyone. So maybe we can start with a round of introduction so that audience knows what is your profile, what you are doing in brief. Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Shashi Mukherjee. I lead digital marketing for Reckitt. And Reckitt, I'm sure most of you would know, but it's a home of some great legacy brands like Dettol, Durex, Move, etc. And so I manage the marketing, D2C, and media for Reckitt. Now, I'm pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Shashi.
Hi everyone, I am Dr. Devi Jindal. I am AVP Growth and Strategy for CK Birla Healthcare. I head, apart from growth and strategy, I take care of marketing and international sales. We are a chain of 5 hospitals and 50 IVF clinics spread all over the country.
Hi, I won the quiz. And apart from that, I also work for HDFC Bank and I look at technology that enables marketing and customer experience.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. And Shashi, maybe I can start with you first. So the first question is for you. How are you utilizing AI and data to understand consumer behavior? Because you are in an industry where you interact a lot with the customers across different demographics, different profiles. So how do you use that?
So, I think the big use case of AI for us is to sort of, really decode large amount of, complex consumer patterns. Like as an FMCG, you would realize that, we would have data coming in from our field force, from our, shopping panels, from our direct distributors, and as well as, for some of the brands where we run a D2C store. That's where we are able to get maximum, consumer data points. Now, and we all know that, MarTech is really, gaining prominence. So there are a lot of partners that can also help us enrich a lot of these data. So for example, if I have, it's easy today to sort of, maybe partner with a fintech platform and to enrich the data and to sort of, get an affluence targeting of your consumers. Now, basis that we are able to sort of, segment, people with higher discretionary income versus not, and therefore even our product propositions and, the way we sort of, GTM our product is kind of tailored looking into those aspects. I'll give you an example of, one of it that one of the biggest household name is Dettol antiseptic liquid, right? We all sort of, grew up with. We have a love-hate relationship because as a kid, it really used to sting a lot, right? Now, we realize that, as different life stages, and I'm talking about a motherhood here, like from a new mom, as, to all the way when a kid kind of, turns 14, 15, there is a role of that bottle in your house, right? With a lot of these data, we have been able to, mine consumer moments of passion. For example, we now know that bringing a baby home is the biggest driver for a product to get in the house, because you need to sort of sanitize your house, etc. The second one, the biggest one, is when the baby starts crawling, right? All the way when your naughty kid kind of, falls off a tree and sort of, bruises his leg. So by understanding these life stages so clearly, we are able to sort of, create a lot of these assets, and we are able to sort of, go and talk to our consumers on the platform of their choice, because we now understand that what really resonates with them. So a small example, but I think this is how, we've been doing it with many other brands, but this one is closer to heart because I think we all have lived with this brand, so.
Thanks for that. Very insightful. Devi, what has been your experience in healthcare industry? How do you do that?
Okay. So for healthcare, especially when we talk about hospitals, the biggest applications of AI are on the clinical side, right? The biggest use cases for us. But since we are all marketeers, so I'll talk about how we have plugged AI into our marketing campaigns. So right from patient acquisition, retention, engagement, right, or winbacks, we have started plugging in AI into our campaigns. Right, and these are not, these are not the campaigns I'm talking about creating, creatives or social media campaigns, but the physical campaigns for reaching out to patients, right? I'll give you an example. We have a hospital, B.M. Birla Heart Foundation in Kolkata. It's a 250-bedded hospital which does only cardiac surgeries or cardiac cases. So we have limited channels to reach out to the community around Kolkata. So what we did was we started a tele-ECG program, right, wherein we installed ECG machines in the periphery, right? Had AI monitor all the ECGs that were flowing in. Any critical ECG was taken up by doctors personally, but then you are able to rule out a lot of people who don't require any intervention. So it was kind of an acquisition strategy that helped us in our marketing efforts, took us to another scale. Also because of the information asymmetry that we have in the healthcare side, most of the people are very inquisitive when they want to reach out to the hospital in terms of which doctor to contact, which specialty to get in touch with. So while we have a very huge call center team that handles all the queries that are coming in, now we are developing AI bots, right? So AI agents who will be able to answer patients' queries. It makes takes out a lot of human intervention, right? And gives the power to the patient to decide where they want to go. Right? We have a dedicated digital team who is doing this, and it's amazing how you can get the talent, the limited kind of talent we have in healthcare, especially technologists. We had good amount of people who have come in and stepped up for this particular effort. On the engagement side, right, so we feel that between a patient coming to hospital for first consult and the next consult, there is a huge gap, and there is a huge fallout of the patients, right? People, take your own personal journey. Just refer back to the last time you went to a doctor, right? You must have gone for a cold or a fever, but once you get cured, you never go for a follow-up, right? And there are cases where people have not just fever, they must be diabetic or they may have other conditions, right? And those get swept off on the side because you went only for a particular problem, right? So now what we have done is we took a lot of discharge summaries, masking the data. We took a lot of discharge summaries, put it in an AI engine that is giving us, that engine is throwing back findings on how these patients need additional care. And surprisingly, from a data set of around 2,000 patients, 77% of them were high-risk patients, right? So this is how these findings and our willingness to act on it has enabled a lot of out-of-hospital engagement with the patients. So these are the few use cases we are working on.
Great insights. Thanks so much for that. Deepak, coming to you, you belong to a sector which touches the lives of every individual. That's financial industry, and especially from a banking perspective. So how do you anticipate the needs of the customer and then personalize solutions for them? Because I think personalization in your industry matters a lot.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It matters a lot because customers today expect personalization with the e-commerce, quick commerce of the world, with modern technologies like Uber. People expect personalization today. Banks are obviously traditional organizations. But why do they need to personalize? Because the customer expects personalization. How the two worlds meet very well together is that bank has a lot of data, right? So for example, when you swipe a card on a point of sale machine, let's say you bought a coffee at Starbucks, the bank actually gets about 20 to 30 attributes back. All these 30 attributes actually have context. What kind of a merchant is it? How much did you spend? Just basic example, there's much more as well. So there's context that comes. If you go to any website today, forget a bank, any website you go to today, that website actually gets about 40 attributes when your browser actually loads the page. There's a lot of data that we collect. So one is the digital platform data that most organizations, including e-commerce or luxury or just about or healthcare, can collect. What banks also have on top of it is the financial data, right? So what do we do with it is the question. So what your digital data gives a bank is what is the intent. Are you trying to buy something? Are you on the app for a longer time, and are you on a particular transaction? Let's say you are on insurance. Okay, maybe there's a need. We can infer from that. What the financial data tells us on top of it is where do you stand in terms of your financial needs, right? For example, if you have been spending a lot of money on your debit card and you've kind of drained your account, we can tell that maybe you need a personal loan. Maybe we should suggest you a credit card limit enhancement of some sort. But if on the mobile app we are going to investments, then we know, okay, boss, you know what, that data and this data are not talking alike. So hold on, right? So these are certain examples from the financial industry where it kind of has a lot of information. Some of it is what we call predictive, where you try and predict when you don't know the data. Some of it is very deterministic, saying if you are actually on the credit card page or a loan page or an investment page for 30 seconds and have come 3 times in the last 4 weeks, we can tell that you have the need and you are in market for that product. Right? Same goes for service. Same goes for complaint. If you're unhappy and keep on going back to the complaints page, or where you go or you have been, the app has crashed for you twice in the last 2 months in the middle of a transaction, we can tell you're unhappy. So these are ways to service and sell, but also service the customers. This is the area that we typically work on.
Thanks for that. Shashi, coming to you, if you could cite an example of a campaign or the way your approach has been for any particular segment in India. And feel free to take up any segment because I know it's a huge market, with so much of variety in demographics. So
Yeah.
whatever example you would like to cite and share your insights with the audience.
So, thanks for the question. So, I think if I take hair removal category, right? I mean, so we also have a brand called Veet. It's one of the, it is the market leader in home depilation. Now, we also understand that, now with so many different formats coming in, there are too many different options that, one may kind of, use to sort of, take care of the needs. Now, with a lot of our digital listening, which includes all the social channels, there are countless number of reels that, today people put about almost 50% of all content, all the time spent on Instagram as a platform is on reels. And the same is with YouTube Shorts, for example. Now, why I'm giving you these 2 examples is because these are the content pieces where it's quite easy to make, right? And therefore, if we see the velocity of this content has gone up. Now, we understand that people do talk about these concerns. For example, get ready with me is a trend, right? And a lot of people would sort of, talk about how do they get ready, and that definitely talks about hair depilation also. Now, and we have, like, for example, typically in India, hair depilation starts from a 15-year-old all the way goes up to 50, 60 years old as the consumer decides. But there are different choice drivers that exist. Now, how do we can definitely, before AI, we would actually, get a bunch of consumers, try and talk to them. Of course, when you are sitting in a room like this and I'm as a moderator asking a question from a brand, you will give certain answers, because when you're asked for this thing, you would always say something that makes you look good, right? But the listening basically kind of, removes all that biases. Now today, AI, what it can do is it can actually study maybe 800,000 reels in couple of days. And what it does is it's able to understand the video. It can sort of, remove the audio and video. It can read consumer expressions. Of course, everything is anonymized. Nothing is kind of the PII is taken care of. But all I'm trying to say is that there are too many signals that are there even in a script. Now, those are the things that can actually help us to decide what are the choice drivers. and what are the different formats, and also what are the influences for your depilation to take place. Now, once we are able to understand this, that is the time where we can actually tailor a lot of this communication, because now we understand the pain points of a young woman or or a girl who's just maybe entering college. There are, for her, there might be very different use cases in her head. She's doing the hair depilation maybe just to sort of, stand out or whatever, right? Now, once we understand these nuances, it actually, we can go back and actually inform our content strategy of what really resonates with what, exact consumers. And that's the time when we deploy campaigns and also measure. So interestingly, I mean, when we look at our measurement, those results are very, very similar to what you actually see in the pre-campaign period. So I think AI is almost like a magic bullet, which was not possible to sort of, see it at least a decade back. There was no way to sort of, figure out so much of content today, right? The second one is marketplaces. People put the real feedback comes out in marketplaces where, they would write, and we are kind of, see the kind of content that sort of, goes in. So looking at disparate sources, looking into, what are the patterns that emerge, and then sort of, inform the strategy, and then you go and measure. It works magically is what I can tell you. So yeah, I think that is one example, and we've been able to also look at some of the trends that are not yet talked about. Not many brands would have sort of, gotten those products, but we know the formats that are in the making. So even that actually helps our R&D to sort of, start thinking on those lines, because people have started talking about ingredients, salicylic acid, this acid. I mean, we all know. Now the consumers are too woke. They are actually knowing what exactly works. And now people buy ingredients. People don't buy products. Now these things never comes out in regular focus group discussion. But, just sitting in a room, getting all the data, the analysis when they churn the data, and what you see is real gold. So I would say Veet is one example where we have really leveraged these AI insights and actually delivered campaigns that work.
So I think we should all note one point which you said, that is people buy ingredients. They are so aware that they don't buy your product, they buy ingredients. They choose where to buy that ingredient from. So that's a very, very nice insight. Devi, coming to you, I know, this is an experimental phase of AI, but based on your experience, whatever you have integrated AI with your MarTech tools, what are the challenges? What are the, what are the challenges? What are the, I would say, the upsides which you have seen so far? How has been that integration? How you are looking at it in your sector?
So see, if we look back at the journey of the hospitals, right? Our first hospital was established 55 years ago, right? In 1969, CMRI in Kolkata. How the AI is backed, the very base of AI is data, right? How this data word came into prominence was around when e-com companies started sprouting up back in 2011, right? The data from day one was very structured, right? Marketing was an after effect of that structured data. For us, we have lost a lot of period in that while. We have missed that structured data. Our data is mostly siloed, right? Very disparate to bring it together. It's very difficult to bring it together. So now, it is just now, in last few years, that we have started realizing the importance of getting this data structured in a way that it can be used for marketing later on, right? So this is the first challenge that we face, right? How this data gets structured, how is the data governance structured, so that the various systems in the ecosystem can talk to each other, right? And believe me, hospital has around 270 IT systems that are, and not all of them talk to each other. It's a huge challenge for us, right? Second, on the AI front, right? Indian hospitals, except for maybe a few, we do not have the volumes to make our own LLMs or have make our own data sets. We have very limited volumes. We have a huge population, right? We treat a lot of patients, maybe a few lakhs in a year, but still we need more data. We don't have access to kind of LLMs that we would like to have access to. For example, MedPalm by Google, they really, we would like to have more access to these platforms. The third challenge that we face is, while MarTech is a very fancy word, and we have taken to MarTech like anything, but still, marketeers were not technologists, and technologists were not marketeers, except a few, say Steve Jobs, right? So this learning, we are still on that learning curve, and maybe it will take us some time, right? We work with a lot of young, bright talents. One is sitting in the back. I just saw him. So these guys are doing a wonderful job, but still, there's a lot of learning involved for us to get there. Fourth challenge that I see is that, while we already have a lot of systems, IT systems that help us in our internal processes, we engage with a lot of platforms, outside platforms, say Salesforce or a Zoho, right, for engaging with the customers, right? For us, it gets very difficult to decide to what to invest upon, right? That's the elephant in the room. Because once you have done a certain investment, it is not just the money, but your time, effort, the HIS integration. It's a 6-month journey for a single system to get collaborated, right? And if you end up choosing the wrong system, it's a wastage of time. And as we know, the technology is evolving very fast. And the final challenge, and the most important challenge, something very important for us to realize in healthcare, is the accuracy of the output that AI is giving us. Because what we are dealing with is someone's health. And it's, at certain point of time, maybe in future, it will become the difference between life and death. So we have to be very careful on the kind of platforms that we engage with and the kind of outputs from AI that we rely upon.
Yeah, thank you so much for that elaborate answer. I think, the point to ponder is that healthcare is a very, very personal kind of service, which we want. We want the highest level of service. And while hospitals and the healthcare departments deal with it, they actually don't have structured data. So, from where the synthesis of all that information can happen, what happened to that individual. So I think it's a really good leap what you're taking in this stride. Hi, Ashish. We would like to ask a question to you regarding, offering the tailored credit solutions. So how do you decide, what kind of solutions should go to which kind of customer with varying financial profiles? Because there would be different kind of people who would be coming to you for different kind of requirements. So how do you segregate that? What kind of AI models are you experimenting with, and if you find any success with that?
Sure. So I think I would answer your second question first. I think while AI certainly has become a buzzword, I think financial industry, in certain industries for that matter, financial is not the only one. There are certain industries which are using this for, I think, for more than a couple of decades, if nothing less. For example, and Deepak would probably appreciate that coming from the same, I think risk modeling is an integral part of lending. And while I keep joking around it, that while my job profile says that I am into a business of giving out credit, the reality is anybody working with a bank or credit, we all are in a business of collections. We only give money where the money is supposed to, can come back, let me put it that way. And which essentially means that underwriting becomes a very important part. And I think underwriting models for yesteryears, they have been leveraging data and leveraging different kind of algorithms to be able to automate the system. Otherwise, I get almost about some 50,000 plus applicants every day for whom we have to make a decision whether I can, and it's not only single decision whether I can lend or not, how much can I lend, for what products can I lend. And some of us might be amazed that consumer behavior in lending can be very different between if a person A, the same person has bought has taken a loan for a TV, or if he has taken a loan for mobile, or whether he or she has taken a loan for, say, a medical emergency. The repayment behavior can be very, very different for these three. So take those kinds of decisions. Now that is on the decision science aspect. But do we use data only there? The answer is no. There are a lot much personalization which has to happen much before that. Keep in mind that it's one of those industries where final product have zero differentiation. And when I say zero differentiation, at the end of the day, you can withdraw money from any ATM or you can take loan from any bank. At the end of the day, the color of that note and the feel of that bill is not going to be any differentiated, which essentially means what defines the differentiation? The differentiation would be in what? Rate of interest? And if we were all rationals, we were a rational creature, then everybody should be only taking, probably dealing with one. Are there only one interest rate in the entire country, or all institutions offer single interest rate? No, there are different slabs. So for us, it is very important to be able to estimate your need, and also at with that need, what risk profile will come, and basis the risk profile, what will be a suitable risk or interest rate can I offer? And then personalize a communication and send it to you when you are most likely to respond. And that's where we use a lot of data science and AI. And again, the reason why I'm choosing to use the word data science then AI is because of today, I mean, a Coke comes back and says, we have made this Coke with AI. So it is more than, I think, if there is one community which is doing the most disservice to AI is the marketers. We just keep AI washing. There was a green washing, and today it's AI washing of everything. So there we use a lot of machine learning and data science to be able to come back. Do we allow machine to automatically think and create and generate an offer? My answer is no. That's not what happens. There are decision rules. There are different algorithms, and there are platforms through which we will be reaching out to consumers. Again, when it comes to servicing, because of credit is not only about giving out money, it's also about being able to nudge you at the right point in time, remind you, and provide you the best possible route to be able to pay. And I have 16 odd different touch points, and a customer can go and pay at any of these touch points. It's on to us to be able to define that what would be the most suitable touch point before a consumer has said. Again, use the same decisioning engine to be able to understand and then communicate. Remember one thing, communication is not cheap today. Gone are the days when you can just go ahead and plaster the town red. Today it's all about sharpshooting, being able to speak to a consumer 101, and and they will only give you chance only once. So it's a triple one dichotomy which we deal with. Create a personalized single communication for a single consumer who is only going to hear you once. And if you're not right at that point in time, I think you're going to create a challenge.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Understand your perspectives, and you're very right. That the end product which you are looking at is something which is not differentiated. It's the experience or the personalized offering which you are providing that is valuable. Extending that, Deepak, I would like to ask you, any experiments which you have done, because your industry actually depends a lot upon cross-selling. There are so many products across your portfolio which you want to cross-sell. So any experiments with your MarTech, including AI, which you have done to see that customer engagement improves and your cross-selling efforts are utilized in the best way possible?
So essentially, we've been experimenting with what I would call machine learning for quite some time, but let me put that aside. The new, what we call AI today, which is very consumer-friendly AI. It's not for the data scientist, hidden away in a lab somewhere. If you look at, let's say, Gen AI, for example. Let's talk about that, because that's a very accessible topic. Everyone uses it in their daily life. One part is agent, which I will keep aside. Again, there is some time to go. What is very easy today is content generation. So that's what we are experimenting with, right? So a bank typically sends, quite a few emails with offers in a month, because the bank has a large amount of consumer base, at least a large bank. So what is typically a bottleneck is when you send a message, you send it and then you wait to see the results over time, and then you iterate by changing the message. That typically happens month, 2 months, 3 months. Very active teams will do it every month, right? But then we thought, okay, how do you automate this part? So let's say very simple thing. As a marketeer, think of 2 subject lines in an email or 2 SMS content that you have, right? One has an engagement rate of, let's say, 10%, The other one has an engagement rate of 3%. So obviously you're not happy with the one that has 3%. But if you wait to revise the 3% over once in 3 months, you've done 4 iterations, right? What typically happens because you have to go right to your marketing communications person, then they have to find time to give you the new copy and so on and so forth. What we're experimenting now is just simply hit a ChatGPT, let's say ChatGPT equivalent to keep it simple. So here's my subject line, here's my SMS text. This one works, it has 10% engagement rate, this is 3%. Obviously the bot will reply back, okay, good. So that means you want a better the one that is doing 3%, you want to revise it. Of course, the answer is yes. That goes straight into our campaign system. And then the campaign system, what it does, it splits for that segment, what the communication that was going out, it splits 10%, keeps it aside. It doesn't shut the 3% engagement rate because you don't know. You could actually make it go down further, right? So it splits the one that has 3%, takes the AI generated or the Gen AI generated content, puts it there for the 10% and sends it out. If the result is more than 3%, what should you do? You should make it 100%, right? So that's the simplistic sort of applied version of content generation that we are able to figure out and do now. And it's taken only 6 months to do. It's not very difficult. You have to have an API and you have to have an intelligent campaign system. That's about it. So these are simple things that we should all do as marketeers because it takes away from the drudgery of marketing, in my view. Because taking a content and then chasing someone to revise it is obviously a pain. You would rather have it on autopilot now. Most large organizations, it's affordable, it's not difficult to do at all.
Well, thanks for that. Thanks for the elaborate answer and the numbers. And I think they are in sync with the industry you belong to. So numbers are your best friends. I'd like to extend that question to you, Shashi, and ask you about engagement in real time. And this round will go for rapid answers, 1 minute each, bite-sized. So have you seen any success and what are the strategies for real-time customer engagement in a fast-moving consumer goods industry?
For a Durex store, and I'll give you an example because that's where I can actually see the funnel moving right in front of us. So during a lot of these eventing days, right, I mean, where you have this sale, that sale, whatever, right? So what we are able to do is that basis our most, we just discussed that, as basis the creative that works the best, we're also able to kind of, dynamically change the, pricing as well as the promotion discounts to kind of, do this at a scale. So now these are rule-based engines. Typically, otherwise, people would actually download the data, look into it, and then, gets a trade spend, adjust it, and do this. But now, because we can actually put an outcome-based model, which kind of maximizes the input in the given time. So basis the interaction, we are able to kind of, play around with the trade spends to get maximum sales. Also, at the end of the time, we can also, in case the AOV is slightly lower, which is a average order value, we are also able to sort of, at a real time, push a lot of these upselling to ensure my AOV targets are also met. But this is all done at a closed box, real time.
That's a great example. Thank you for that. Devi, one question with you, for you. Personalization for healthcare, and you deal with a lot of personal data. So any guardrails which you keep so as not to have a conflict between personalization and privacy of data?
Yeah. So healthcare, it's a very private matter, right? A person's healthcare data is very private. Nobody is comfortable sharing their healthcare information with anyone. And so the same is regulated by the government also, right? So anything that we do with AI, the personal information has to be removed. The data has to be anonymized, right? We can't use person's personal data anywhere. And the ethical question that we will face going forward is whether the patient has given his or her consent to use that data, for our AI models or for anything going forward. So the guardrail is patient's consent. That is the first thing that we need for using the data.
Thanks for that. Ashish, coming to you, some of the challenges which you have seen in building trust among new to credit customers, and how you navigated them.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Again, I mean, I keep throwing these things. I think credit is one market where to get a credit, can anybody guess what do you need to get a credit? Very good. A good credit score, which means a credit history. That comes much later. He was right. To get a credit, the very first thing you need is a good credit score, which comes basis the good credit history. How do you build a credit history?
By taking.
How do you build a credit history? Take credit. Am I right? How to get a credit? We can do it all day long. Okay? I think, so what he says, NTC is nothing but acronym, and both of us are marketers, so we love acronyms, I think, which is nothing but a new to credit customer, somebody who has never taken a credit. You go to take any loan, even the credit card, they will check your credit history. If you have never taken a loan, they'll say first go and take a loan. अरे उसी के लिए तो आया हूँ. हाँ लेकिन उसके लिए लोन चाहिए. So I think there comes these models which are called as alternate data models, which is where a lot of financial institutions work. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges for a NTC customer, which is about being able to ascertain their credit worthiness. Why do credit history is required? Because if it is nothing but an indicator of how credit worthy all of us are. If I give you the money or you give me the money, what are the chances of me returning it back? Okay, so for somebody who has never taken a money, you can't estimate, so you use alternate data models, and that is where I think there are a lot of challenges which come, and that's where comes the entire data modeling systems and partner ecosystems, and as a consumer, how much willing you are to be able to share the alternate sources of data which we can use to estimate your credit worthiness, which essentially helps us and financial institutions like us to be able to provide you an offer which will suffice for your requirement and also put you at a healthy financial outcome. Because of understand, giving out a credit is not only about providing you money at that point in time, but to put you at a roadmap for success for long. And I think that's a responsible credit or responsible lending is all about, which a lot of us engage with. And I'm not talking about us when I say us as home credit, but I am talking about financial institutions at large.
All right, I think we are about time. I'll just ask a question quickly and would have all of yours opinion. I think it's a great question. Can AI help in building human connections, the emotional connections, by delivering the right message at the right time, better than humans? Your take, yes, no, and if so, yes, then why?
I think it can enable the human to have more information to speak to another human. Okay, and as long as that is happening, it is answer is yes.
Deepak, your view?
At home, I'm able to sometimes trigger Alexa to talk to Google, right? It fascinates me. So in fact, I'm fascinated by how AI will talk to AI, because I've heard that some people use Tinder bots. So apparently, it's like one Tinder bot flirting with another Tinder bot. So that is really something I find fascinating. I think
Deepak, you are missing Siri from the
Sorry, my bad.
ecosystem.
My bad. I'm totally
You should.
Android. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I know. So look, AI is fascinating, and I think there's lots to see.
Devi, your take?
Yeah, so I could not have put it more better than what Ashish said, right? AI can enable a human to talk in a better way to another human, but I would not let AI talk to my patient or respond unsupervised, right? That would be a big mistake as of now. I don't know about future, but as of now, no.
Shashi, your final
I think
comment?
anything which doesn't have health implications, right? If anything is casual conversation, I'm sure an AI can do a better job than humans. Because it depends how much the AI model has learned, and because there are no biases, and the AI system doesn't forget anything. So I think it's more effective. It could do it, but yes, it can't go into any advisory which kind of impacts any consumer health or any of those data. But otherwise, it's good.
Great. Well, I also have some more questions, but I think we are just on time. So thank you everyone for actually making it on time. And I think we'll all will be available for some time after the event. So if you have any questions, you can have and reach out and have a conversation with all these marketing legends. That's up. So time is up. That's all for this particular panel. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
everyone,
Namit.
for your insights.